Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to share with you some thoughts and comments that I have with regard to a film directed by the Japanese filmmaker and artist Takeshi Kitano. This particular work was released initially in Japan in the year 1999, and it is KIKUJIRO no Natsu, or in English, Kikujiro. Although I should say that the Japanese title, Kikujiro no Natsu, can be translated as Kikujiro's Summer, or the Summer of Kikujiro. The word is Natsu, Kikujiro no Natsu, which means summer. I believe the word summer is very apt and appropriate in this circumstance because the film, Kikujiro no Natsu, is about Natsu, or summer. To be more specific, it's a film that is about the summer holidays in modern-day Tokyo, as experienced by one of our main characters, who is a young boy, a young school boy named Masao, who lives not with his parents, but with his grandmother. And his grandmother works, so that means that she leaves him alone in the house. He is a lonely boy, and he spends much of his time alone. And that is made more apparent by the fact that although many of his school friends are off on their own little family trips for summer vacation, Masao, the young boy, unfortunately, is left alone with nowhere to go here in Tokyo. You throw into the mix the notion that's revealed very early on that he wants to find or meet his mother. And as I say, he doesn't live with his mother, he lives with his grandmother, but his mother lives somewhere else in Japan completely. It's actually very far from Tokyo, in the western part of Japan, known as Aichi Prefecture. At the same time, the film establishes another main character of the film, who is played by Takeshi Kitano himself, Beat Takashi. The character that he plays is somewhat of a social misfit. He is a gambler. There are suggestions that maybe he has or had ties to local yakuza or gangsters. And so he is, and also a bit of a buffoon, but still there is a lovable, affable, enduring quality about this character played by Beat Takashi. And through a certain set of narrative circumstances that are very clever and very humorous, these two characters, the Beat Takashi character and the little boy, they come together and they are off on what it, in a sense, becomes a road journey from Tokyo to the western part of Japan, in the hopes of being able to find Masao's mother. That is, I think, in essence, the film Kikujiro, or Kikujiro no Natsu. So it's a film about summer and about Japan and about family and about friendship and about childhood and growing up and everything that all these things have to offer in that really enduring and heartwarming way that Takeshi Kitano presents those things in this film. So what to say about this film, Kikujiro no Natsu? It is, in my estimation, one of Kitano's most popular and enduring works. I think it is so because of the heartwarming and delicate nature of the film. It has in its center, of course, the road journey, and it has Beat Takeshi, who's a very popular figure, a TV personality, a comedian, as we have discussed. It also has at its center the story of this young boy and his search for his mother. And so we realize along the way the reasons or the circumstances as to why this situation is the way it is and how he tries to deal with it. And that leads to a number of very emotional circumstances that are quite quite endearing and full of profound impact, and presented in the tender way that Kitano is able to do so, combined with, say, the wonderful music by Joe Hisaishi, which incidentally, or not incidentally, which actually is one of the most enduring and most popular themes by Hisaishi, at least when associated with Kitano. It is a theme that is very common, and it's commonly played here in Japan outside the context of the film, and so it has a life of its own, as it were. So, and I think it really adds a really lovely poetic dimension to the tender displays of emotion along the way of this road journey. This is not just a quote-unquote heartwarming drama, of course. It is also a film that is presenting the world in the satirical, comic, biting, almost sinister edge, the fun, sinister edge that Beat Takashi, or Takeshi Kitano, is able to present it. He presents a world that is also very funny, it is also very cold, it is also very dangerous and quite brutal sometimes. There are also moments of humor, of slapstick comedy, especially this combination of the young boy and the grown-up Beat Takashi character, and the sort of hijinks that they get into. In particular, we realize that the Beat Takashi character is really a social misfit, and he has this temper that gets the better of him many a time, to a lot of comic effect, but also there is a hint of sadness and tragedy about who he is and what he is about. And perhaps there are more things that these two characters have in connection with each other than what might meet the eye at first glance. But in any event, we have a very almost morally ambiguous character, but still presented in the funny, charming, affable way that Takeshi Kitano presents this particular person. So we follow him, we enjoy the hijinks, we laugh at him, we laugh with him, and it also presents not just the opportunity for some comic hijinks in that wonderful Beat Takashi way, but it also presents opportunities that we have seen in past Kitano works, where he is using images and symbols and representations of Japanese society and social conventions, and he is using the story and structure in order to show characters that are breaking these conventions, breaking the rules, turning things on their head, and making almost a statement, if you will, about the over-applied rigidity of certain Japanese conventions and the need for them to be broken in order to achieve a certain sense of freedom and a sense of being able to live as a kind of free spirit. I think that's a real key. And so along the way, we see examples of rules of Japanese society or convention that are broken in a very comic way by the main characters here. Not just for the sake of comedic effect, although it is very humorous, but also for the sake of showing us Japanese symbols that are broken and reconfigured in a charming way in the hands of the cinema of the filmmaker Kitano. And we have seen this in past works, how he takes conventions, societal conventions, breaks them, destroys them, and reconstructs them in a way that shows us or illuminates something of the human condition, or the importance of the notion of freedom or liberation, as it were, in an emotional way. So that's very key in this film, in my opinion. Also, this is a film that is very, I would say, significant and very important in the context of Kitano Takeshi's career and Beat Takeshi's career. We have a further exploration of the concept of the duo, or we say in Japanese kombi, or combination, which is a pairing of characters, two people. This is very much in line with what we have seen in a lot of past Kitano works, where you focus on pairings or couples. This is also very consistent with the comedian background of Beat Takeshi, because we understand that Beat Takeshi was and is a comedian, although we also understand that he has his comedian roots in what is known as Manzai, or the type of Japanese comedy where you have two comedians as a pair or as a team, and they have their comic skits or gags as a team. And so we recall that Beat Takashi himself came from Manzai comedy in Japan. This is very significant because we have seen in past works, in particular films like Kids Return, how he explores the concept of Manzai, or this duo comedy entertainment. There is a really important aspect where this comes up, and we see the exploration or visiting or revisiting of Beat Takeshi's Manzai past in this film in a very striking and very memorable way. And the notion of his Manzai past, what's known as the two beats, beat, is very much directly handled in particular aspects in this film. So that makes this film very key, not just in the context of Kitano's filmography, but also in the context of Beat Takeshi's life and career as a comedian. Very important. Along those lines, this film can also be said to be an exploration of childhood, of growing up, and there has been a lot that has been said about how certain elements of this film can be said to be, or have been described to be, reflective of, or a cinematic expression of certain points about Kitano Takeshi's life himself, his own childhood. And the focus on this area of Tokyo, Asakusa area of Tokyo, is very significant in that regard. And the feeling of focusing on childhood, on hopes and dreams that one has as a child, and how we deal with those when circumstances present themselves. So there is a lot about the exploration of childhood perspectives and adolescence and growing up, which is very much in the same spirit of films like A Scene at the Sea or Kids Return. So we have these workings or reworkings of this approach to cinema from the perspective of child characters. And we have the really intricate and awesome implementation of many different art forms in this film. We have, of course, the expression of cinema, but we also and when we talk about the expression of cinema in the context of Takeshi Kitano, this is, of course, that expression of cinema that focuses in on stillness, on the careful application of editing, and the way that music and image are weaved together. And we should point out the great score by Joe Hisaishi, one of his most famous scores associated with a Kitano film. And it has a beautiful lyrical quality to it, and it also has a lovely rhythm that is a musical representation of the kind of road movie or buddy movie that we are talking about with this film. So these and other aspects are a great example of the cinematic expression of the Kitano style that we have already become accustomed to throughout his filmography thus far. So this is, therefore, on one level, a continuing cinematic expression of Kitano's art. But there are other art forms that are being expressed here. There are moments of dance performance, theater performance that are intertwined quite clever in a clever way in this film. There's also tap dance, and tap dance is also going to be very significant, not just in this film, but perhaps in other films to follow. And also we have the application and expression of the art, the paintings of Takeshi Kitano. We saw this a lot in some of his more recent works. The film Hanabi, in particular, focuses in very, very crucially on the artwork of Takeshi Kitano. Here, the artwork of Takeshi Kitano is on display as well. There are some beautiful motifs generated about nature, about the image of angels and the seaside and the like. And so the artwork becomes yet another expression of the way in which Kitano sees representations of Japanese society and landscape and nature, but he turns them on their heads and creates another representation all his own that is focused on the emotional and the essential, I would suggest. And so that becomes another layer of artistic expression that is in essence linked to the very core of the film Kikujiro no Natsu, where we talk about conventions that are established and then broken, and we talk about feelings of that are expressed in the rigidity of the context of modern day Japanese society, but the need for them to be for there to be a sense of liberation and a sense of for there to be new establishments of new norms outside the normal, thus creating a space, a safe space, an emotional space where people can live and relax and be free. And I think that is at the heart of this film, and that is expressed in many different variations on the theme, not just in the context of the narrative, but also in the various modes of expression artistically that we see Kitano employ very effectively, very strikingly in this film. It is also, on a very personal note, it is one of my favorite Kitano films. I saw it many times when it was in the theater. And my parents too, my mother in particular, loves this film, or she did when she was alive. And there were some jokes here that for her were just so laugh out loud funny. Whenever I watch this film now and I see those moments appear on screen, I laugh, but I also feel a feeling of tenderness, because it reminds me of my mother and how much when she was alive, she really enjoyed those moments. There's a particular joke that is a visual gag when you have some of the characters selling corn on the side of the road. And that's one of the funniest things in the film for me. So if you can watch the film and you look out for that joke, yeah, that's one of many great jokes in the film. Visual gags, lowbrow humor, physical slapstick comedy, which are all the trademarks of Beat Takashi and his brand of humor, and it's on display here with such grace and confidence and personality, and so memorable all at the same time. And I should say also in closing that the film, I find, is a remarkable blend of so many tones and atmospheres. I was trying to suggest somewhat earlier in the video that it is an example of the various modes of artistic expression of the artist Takeshi Kitano, and I think that's very true. But it is also a blend of many different storytelling techniques and styles that are combined in this great way. As I say, there is the brand of Beat Takashi humor that is enveloped all the way throughout. There is a sketch comedy aspect to it. There is the road movie or buddy comedy aspect to it. Going back to the idea of sketch comedy, there is a sense of there being an episodic notion or feeling to this, because it is a plot-driven film, don't get me wrong, but it is also at the same time a film that makes a lot of stops, it makes a lot of detours, and while it makes its detours, it has this episodic nature. And within the episodes, there are little sub-episodes, so it's very much a great segmented type of organization to the information. And along the way, we meet very many characters that appear and then make their farewells. But we meet a lot of very memorable characters along the way. Then it's also, in terms of storytelling modes, it does show the satirical biting edge, and there is also a hint of danger, or not just a hint, there are actually many hints of danger about the cruelty of the world and also the dangerous people that occupy many aspects and many pockets of the world. And so the film doesn't shy away from those moments as well. But in the end, ultimately, it becomes this very heartwarming, touching, tender tale with this very memorable pairing at its center, this young boy and the older man, played by Beat Takeshi himself. So this is Beat Takeshi's road movie, buddy comedy film with little hints of the Yakuza, little hints of the Beat Takeshi Manzai comedy, and with hints of the glorious bursts of energy that are expressed in antithetical cinematic techniques, the antithetical and brilliant cinematic techniques that we have come to know from Takeshi Kitano, and also modes, varying and multifaceted modes of artistic expression and also storytelling expression technique. It is all in all a multi-level, complex, fascinating work of art that is very tender, very joyful. It is a celebration of emotion in cinema, and it is a story of two people and their journey from Tokyo to another part of Japan. And we laugh and we cry along the way with them. This is the film Kikujiro no Natsu. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I really appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.